A heads up for today's video, there will be spoilers from the Trials of Apollo series mentioned throughout the video itself, so if you haven't read the books, go do that and then come back here after you have done so. Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of A Healthy Dose of Fran. Today, Percy Jackson is back, but with a twist from the videos that I have done in the past, as today I'll be looking at the books from a writer's perspective, starting with Trials of Apollo's The Burning Maze, and how the very sad and devastating death of Jason Grace from a writing perspective actually made sense. Now before you guys come for my head, just to let you know, I was actually heartbroken by Jason's death, mainly because it was such an unexpected moment and so sudden that when it happened I kind of had to take a moment from the book and kind of step back because I was so taken aback by what had happened. But when I kind of finished the book and kind of took a step back from the series as a whole just to kind of process what had happened, I started to think about the moment and everything leading up to it from Heroes Olympus to now, and realised that what Rick did in terms of killing off Jason was actually an incredibly brave and generally smart thing to do from a writing perspective, because in most books like this, the heroes, there is no actual threat to the heroes. From a reader, you know it's so unlikely that a main character is going to be killed off, so there is no sense of threat or trepidation when they are in a dangerous situation. So to suddenly do this was incredibly brave and ballsy, and for those who were affected by Jason's death, I thought it would be an interesting thing to talk about it more in this video and kind of see if I can help people understand why his death makes sense from a story-driven point of view, but then also from the character point of view of being a heroic character. So that's what I'll be doing today, but I'll move on from that and get on to the main gritty bit of this video. Now, I touched on this first point slightly before, in that most hero stories, the main heroes of that particular story, for example Harry Potter's original trio, they face many dangers throughout the entire series, but because they have survived all of them with not kind of complete ease, but with a lack of a sense of danger, in that we know they are very likely to survive because they've survived all previous times, when they face danger again, there is no sense of trepidation of, oh, will they actually survive this time? Because there's a lot of evidence that they will, because they have in the past. They are the main characters. Why would they be killed off? So to have Rick suddenly kill off a character that was the main person in Heroes of Olympus was a real shock to the system, because it's just not often done. More often than not, heroes will survive throughout with casualties of side characters and minor characters, but no original main characters actually face any sense of physical and final threat. But this wasn't the case for Jason, and I actually really enjoyed that, because it kind of shows that heroes' actions do actually have consequences. Jason went into a battle knowing it was possible he could die, and he put himself in this danger, and the danger overcame him. He did die. He did face his final end. And I think this is something that a lot of writers don't do, but it's something that kind of really needs to be done, because as an audience we need to feel a sense of trepidation and fear and anxiety for these characters, because in Robert Graham's book, How to Write Short Stories, he says that if you want the reader to read on, there has to be something at stake. It just happened to be that at this point, it was Jason's life that was at stake. Now, while I agree that Jason's death does make sense, there were also many other cases in the past where main characters' deaths either should have been permanent or should have happened. And the main one that I can think of is from Heroes of Olympus, and this is Leo Valdez. So for anyone who knows that series, in the very last book, Leo sacrifices himself to end Gaia and send her back to her sleep. But as much as that sacrifice is worth so much to everyone, it turns out to actually be a fake out because Leo actually survives. And to me, that always felt like a bit of a cop out from Rick, that at the time he wasn't brave enough, so to speak, to actually kill off a main character. And I think it was possibly even a bit of a cop-out in terms of Jason, because in Trials of Apollo he is no longer the main character. He's a side character in the burning maze who knows that his life will be in danger. But there are also many other characters that could have been this sort of sacrifice to show these actions have consequences. For example, Grover, he is one of the original trio. He is also putting his life in danger in the burning maze. There's also Sally. Sally at one point could have possibly died, showing that as much as you try to save someone, it doesn't always mean something will last. But again, that's just kind of me, that something needed to be done to show that not everyone wins, not every win lasts. And I think that's kind of what the death of Jason also shows, that yes, he won with the battle against the giants, but that win didn't last forever. And as much I do also think that there were a few occasions of cop-outs in the past, and maybe even Jason's death was a bit of one in that it happened after the events of Heroes of Olympus. I think it was still an incredibly brave thing to do from a writing perspective. I think the main thing that we kind of need to take away from Jason's death is that this is the realities of war, and the Percy Jackson universe is all about these young people in warlike situations and in actual wars. We have the Titan War, the Giant War, so many different things are going on, and the fact that more often than not these actions and wars didn't have consequences for these main groups was just not realistic. We see the casualties of war around them, but although they feel this sense of devastation over the people they've lost, we as an audience sometimes don't, because more often than not the people that died we didn't know that much about. We can feel this sense of heartbreak but not experience it ourselves. And I think this is something that makes sense in terms of the Trials of Apollo series, because this story follows Apollo, who still kind of believes up until the point of Jason's death that demigods are there meant to follow the laws and orders of the gods, and that they are meant to be used by the gods, because that's what he's always been led to believe, because that's what he did. He gave orders to demigods and expected them to be done. But now he is the person having to do these tasks, and he sees Jason die and it feels almost responsible for it. And to see someone who he's connected with die and see the consequences of his own actions, I think is going to be something that firstly helps build his character and helps him understand the realities of war for these demigods, but benefit him in general. And I know it's a horrible thing to say that someone's death will benefit someone else, but I think this may have been possibly one of the reasons that Jason did die, or the reason why Rick wrote Jason's death, because it will impact the story later on. It could rally the troops to fight against Nero and the other Roman emperors, or it could, I don't even know, but there is often a reason behind it. And as David Edgar says in his book How Plays Work, many classic gung-ho British war movies end with the survivor of an operation or its initiator wondering if the gain was worth the sacrifice. And I definitely think that's going to be something that will play on Apollo's mind and almost everyone else's mind as well. Imagine the guilt that Percy may feel that he wasn't there. They were in the middle of the ocean and he wasn't there to protect and save people. Imagine Annabeth thinking of all the things that they could have done and how she wasn't able to be there to help stop what was happening and find a strategic plan to fight against the enemy. And just that in general, I think is going to have a big impact on everyone throughout the series, and that alone I think is one of the reasons, well, one of the many reasons as to why Jason Grace's death not only makes sense, but his death will matter, because Jason Grace matters. But you know what, that is just one opinion from someone who got a degree in creative writing and hasn't kind of really done much with it. So what do you guys think? Do you agree that Jason's death makes sense? Do you think there may have been a reason behind his death? And how do you feel about the fact that Jason died? Let me know in the comment section down below. Before I sign off, I'm going to give a big thank you to the artists who let me use their artwork in this video. That is Whysosearius and Ianthedebonair. Both of their Instagrams and Tumblrs and all of that lovely stuff is linked in the description box down below. Again, thank you guys so much for letting me use your stuff. Your artwork is absolutely amazing. But in general guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I really do appreciate it. If you go to the description box down below, you'll find the links to my Instagram and my Patreon, where on Patreon you get early access to any and all of my videos, as well as have a say as to what comes out in future. Here on YouTube, if you guys aren't already subscribed, go to the button down below or click the one popping up here on screen. If you want to check out any of my previous Percy Jackson videos, the playlist will be popping up here, and then something else for you lovely folks will be popping up here. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.